Hello there, my name's André, and I'm going to be talking to you this morning or today on game-based learning and in particular game-based learning with special education students. Um, I'm going to say a little bit about how I got started on game-based learning, and I'm going to say a little bit about what it takes to get started. I'm also going to be saying something about my angle on game-based learning. There are many ways of approaching game-based learning. And then I'm gonna say something about game-based learning with special education students. And then I'm gonna bring in a few examples of what I've been doing the last couple of years. So I hope this brings you something of use. I apologize for the maybe a bit boring form of me just sitting here talking to a camera, but I hope what I say will be useful. So here goes. Firstly, how did I get started on game-based learning? I started about 2 years ago. While I was teaching maths, I kind of got bored with the way of teaching, and I could also see that my students were somewhat bored with the very book-based way of learning. So in that period of time, I was playing a game called Battlefield 2, and I started thinking about that all the statistics the game generated could be useful in maths. I just couldn't see it in practice being used because there are a number of challenges. The technical challenge of setting up a first-person shooter in a regular school was quite challenging. There was also the whole 3D environment that the game was played in, which actually ended up being the thing I used mostly in my math lessons. There was some ethical barriers about how do you bring something that's violent into the classroom, and there's also the issue of how do you sell the idea of using a first-person shooter, which appeals to boys, to girls, and so a contract had to be made. I actually ended up not actually using the gameplay in Battlefield 2, but I just used the game environment to make measurements and to work in. Later I discovered Minecraft, just the free version, and Minecraft in my eyes just lived up to many more of the criteria that a good game for a classroom environment had to live up to. For example, that there's no violence and that it's got a broad appeal, and not to mention that fact that it was actually a real game and not a so-called educational game. Getting started with game-based learning is one of the most challenging things, because you have to do a lot of preparation to actually get over the barrier. There's also some technical issues that you have to get solved, and obviously working closely with your IT crew at your school is a very good thing. You don't have to be a nerd at gaming, but you have to enjoy playing games and have a basic interest in games. In the learning situation, I've found that you have to be willing to lose some control in the learning situation, because play can be unpredictable, and you can't actually control the way children play completely. But I think you have some tools to work with that allow you to stage a learning situation and give students boundaries with where they can play. I think you have to be willing to learn this new way of teaching, that you actually see the game as a kind of a stage that you set and put the students within the environment, and if you're a good teacher and if you're good at doing this, you'll create a situation where students can be learning whatever you want them to learn. And being able to kind of set the stage and set boundaries also means knowing your game well. An example could be having a storyline as like something that sets milestones in your lessons. So if you have a story to tie your lessons together with, that can kind of set some boundaries for your learning situation. Also, I think it's very important to be a co-learner with your students. Many times the students actually possess the expertise in many of the games, and I think it's okay to not be the person in the room that knows most, but you should be a fellow learner with your students and also use the expertise that they have, and basically just pluck their brains. That's what I have to do with Minecraft. I'm not afforded so much time to play the game, but I'm actually learning a lot from just watching my students play the game. I'd just like to say a few words about my angle on game-based learning. I've been playing computer games for many years now, and I'm really a fan of using real games for learning, as opposed to educational games or serious games, as they're called. I think that, not to say that there can be some good serious games and educational games out there, but I really think that playing is the goal in itself. When you play, playing isn't necessarily about the product, but in my eyes it's more about the process of playing. So educational games strive for an outcome of learning. A real game more sets an environment where learning can take place. At the same time, there's also the challenge of the game actually just taking a lot of time, and this of course is a challenge for the teacher to take the real game and make it a constructive learning experience for students. Now a few words just about game-based learning with special education students. I've been working primarily with students with Asperger's and related autism spectrum diagnoses, and what I can say in general about many of these students is that they have a negative baggage of learning experience from previous schools, and what I see is when they meet a traditional learning setting, for example, the teacher standing at the blackboard talking. Many of them just zone out. It seems that many have a kind of a mental barrier maybe because of previous experience of defeat in the classroom. Play is a motivational factor, and it makes the learning fun. It's also an informal setting, and it allows the teacher to access curricular goals from another angle than the traditional. These students that I work with, they excel in learning the rules and the premises of the game and acting within their boundaries. Games are fantastic environments because of their clear rules, objectives, feedback, and flow. Games also a safe environment to experiment in, where failure is a part of the learning process, trial and error, and maybe there's not the same opportunities to try and fail in a classroom situation where you have many people watching and listening. Working with games can also give us the opportunity to develop skills that challenge students beyond their comfort zones. For instance, letting them talk out loud, collaboration, and project work. I'm just going to say a little bit about my experiences in using games in learning situations. My first experience was with Battlefield. I called it Battle Math. I used the gaming environment in Battlefield 2 to measure distances and calculate speed, work with map scale and area and volume. Also, we did a comparison between physical and virtual worlds. For the students, engaging in maths was a great challenge. Again, I was working with some special education students, and I think I can say that the game context helped them to work with assignments that were difficult. Even though they weren't playing the game, they were just interacting within the environment, and this was a great motivational factor that helped me work with areas in maths that could have been harder to access if I was working traditionally. I've also used Battlefield 2 in machinima. I had a video class, and we were making machinima with Battlefield 2, and actually they were learning how to do video, and we were shooting video, but there was also the whole process of working as a group and as a team. I set them the assignment there to do a remake of Black Hawk Down, the intro scene, and actually it turned out that it really took a lot of teamwork and a lot of coordination in acting out the roles and making storyboards and shooting video. So that was also an interesting experience. I haven't gone further with machinima, but there are definitely a lot of games that can be used to work with video. We've been using source-based games such as Counter-Strike Source and Left 4 Dead 2, Portal. For teaching, we've been teaching level design in a 3D editor called Hammer, and this is actually a free tool which Valve is making available, and the students are learning how to do level design, but my colleague who actually started this course, had the goal of teaching these students social skills. So their motivation is really high to work with the content, but our goals are actually to give these students some social training, and this is in the test process where they test each other's levels. They have to provide feedback in both a verbal feedback and a written feedback, and they have to evaluate each other's levels and implement the feedback that they get, and in the process of perfecting their levels. And another thing we aim at working with is giving the students experience in project work, where they have to design a level in teams, and here the whole production pipeline is a challenge for students that have a hard time expressing themselves. But in the context of working with games, it seems that the students have something very concrete to express themselves about, and they're very motivated because they think it's exciting to talk about games. So so for them it's very meaningful to talk about games, because it's just it's very concrete, and they can they have a lot of opinions about games. And there's the whole process of working and coordinating ideas that that provide a lot of challenge for our students. I've had an elective course some weeks ago called Minecraft English, and we've been using Minecraft to actually just be the environment where students have to speak English, and basically we're playing Minecraft in survival mode, and I haven't actually laid out many boundaries for them, and in a way that's been good, because I've been able to see what they do and what they can do if I don't set boundaries. So that's provided me with some insight. But what I really think was interesting about this course was that the informal setting of sitting in the same room and playing on the same server was a great context for them to speak English and train confidence and fluency in speaking. I've been teaching English for many years, and I think one of the greatest barriers is getting students to speak freely and not to try to speak correctly all the time, but actually just speaking incorrectly, just to kind of get in the flow of speaking English. So for the students, communicating was more important than speaking correctly, and the informal setting of the game was good for this purpose, and that's really been a real eye-opener for me, because I've seen a lot of students just shy away from speaking because they were in a classroom where there were students listening, and the teacher would probably correct them in front of their friends, and that's not very motivating. So I think this might be one of my most noteworthy discoveries in game-based learning at the moment. Another project I've been working with in Minecraft is something I would call Collaboration Island, and it's where we inhabited an island with students and allowed them to start some individual projects, but also help them to collaborate in different building projects. And the goal was for them basically to have fun with building and coordinating building. For us, we wanted them to train collaboration in building, and we also wanted them to solve conflicts and discuss the content that they wanted in the island. Actually, about 5 minutes into the first lesson of this course, there was a conflict between two students and some resources and the space that they were building in. So it was a conflict, but actually that was the one of the aims was for us to work with these kind of things and get them to work together and not fight about where to build. So we started expanding on the concept and also challenging students to create mini quests on the island, like a little treasure hunt, and many of them had their made some quite exciting quests. One student actually kind of designed a ruin that told a story, and the quest was actually just to explore the ruin and build a story on what had happened. So that was an interesting project where we aimed at working with collaboration. In conclusion, I would just like to comment the question, do students learn more with game-based learning? Obviously, students find it more fun to play in a lesson. Their motivation to engage in activity is greater than if they were to use books or to listen to a teacher lecturing. I think when used correctly, game-based learning can provide a greater outcome of learning with the students and can be used to access parts of curriculum that can be hard for some students to work with otherwise. At the same time, playing to learn can be a waste of time if the teacher doesn't have a strategy for navigating students towards learning curricular objectives. I think immediate evaluation becomes more important from lesson to lesson because the teacher needs to be aware of what needs to be adjusted on the way. You can't necessarily predetermine the direction students take in your learning space. The great thing about using games with special ed students is the game creates a safe zone with rules and objectives and feedback, which obviously counts for all students. Students with autism spectrum diagnoses, as I see it, thrive within these safe perimeters and are good at tinkering and experimenting while in the game. Having to work in a classroom setting or with a group of students and having to interact face to face can also be very complex for my students, but with the difficulties that non-verbal communication poses for them, I think that a game environment can be a help. So in conclusion, I would say that the game environment evens out the differences between students and sometimes even gives special ed students an upper edge. Yeah. That was it from me. I hope it hasn't been too boring with me just sitting here talking, but I hope I can spice it up with a few pictures, and I hope what I've said can be used for your future studies. Thank you. Bye.